Yes, indeed, sir, indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, people who believe in the principle that the United States of America and China should continue as partners and in constructive ways to make this world a better place. On behalf of the George Bush Foundation for China Relations and the Fang Family Foundation, I would like to welcome you to this wonderful event today. We are so happy today. I personally am so delighted that there's such a wonderful audience here today, because as we celebrate our 4th decade of harmony and normalization of relations between the United States and China, it is very sad and in many ways unfortunate that the current federal narrative is sown with terms of conflict and tariff. We know this cannot be in the future. So we're very, very delighted to welcome the foundation, the George Bush Foundation, to the West Coast for 2 major reasons for me. First, they understand that we need constructive dialogue and we need to increase the relationship between the United States and China, the 2 most dominant powers as we approach the future in the world. Second, here as a local boy from San Francisco, having the foundation come nationally, although from Texas, is a wonderful opportunity to increase our platform so that we can spread this message of work, understanding, and promoting of good relations to not just the Bay Area and California, not just Texas, but indeed nationally in the world. It's really an honor for me today to introduce our first speaker. Some people may know him as the son of the 41st president. Some may know him as the brother of the 43rd president. I think he's most talented, and what he's made his mark on is being one of the strongest advocates for U.S. China relations this nation has seen. He is tireless. Anybody who's traveled to China 140 times, starting when his father was the unofficial Consul General of China, really not only talks with passion, but with knowledge of what he's talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really my pleasure and privilege to introduce Mr. Neil Bush.
That was a great introduction, James. Thank you so much. I want to first pay my deepest respects to our hostess for this event, a mentor to many, including myself, a leader on the front lines of this incredibly important issue of U.S. China relations, Florence Fung. And Florence, I'd like to say that to be a part of your fan club here, I feel like I used to think I was the #1 member of the fan club. Now I realize you have so many. I'm going to call you guys Florence's Army, because you've been called out by the boss to do good work. And in fact, she does nothing but great work. I actually have 2 presidential legacy hats that I wear here today. One, James very thoughtfully brought up the fact that I have a real passion, as my father did, for U.S. China relations. My first visit to China was in 1975. I've seen China's rise. I've seen the miracle of hundreds of millions of people being lifted out of poverty. I've seen people enjoying day-to-day freedoms that were unimaginable 44 years ago, freedoms that were, just inconceivable. And I've seen a natural leaning by the Chinese people and the Chinese system towards America. They want to be friends with America. We have so much more in common than what divides us. And so I am passionate, like my father was during his entire life, from being the bicycling ambassador in 1975 and 1976 to being our ambassador prior to that to the UN. After that, the various positions, vice president and president. His very first trip, by the way, as president of the United States was to Beijing, China. He was the president that was in charge of our government when Tiananmen Square incident broke out. And had it been any other president, our relationship would have been probably pushed off the cliff and put in a very difficult position. So I'm proud to wear the Bush China U.S. Relations Foundation hat as part of my mission here. The other presidential legacy, my father started an organization called Points of Light. He knew that government, whether it's the U.S. government or governments around the world, aren't capable of solving all of our society's greatest problems. And he saw that in every human being there is a light that resides in us that empowers us to do something for others. And as we've seen challenges after challenges in our country and around the world, one of America's greatest exports is this notion of volunteerism, of stepping up, rolling up your sleeves and doing good things for others. And there's never been a more important time to rally the forces of good than in this time, as our world is now threatened with a pandemic, the coronavirus. The coronavirus knows no borders. We have a natural humanity. We share a common humanity. And as humans, we must double down our efforts to join hands, to be collaborators in preventing. And I'd like to acknowledge the Consul General from China here, Mr. Wang. Your country has done so much to keep the virus in China and to keep people from China from catching the virus at the expense of your economy. And if this virus ever gets into the United States, it's hard to imagine the United States being able to muster the courage to say, okay, we're going to shut our economy down for like 4 or 5 weeks, because we don't want people to get sick. And I hope we have the courage to do what the Chinese have been able to do and continue to do in their struggle to overcome this incredibly threatening disease or virus. So I just want to applaud. I hear a lot of criticisms of China not being transparent enough, not welcoming. I don't believe what I hear about China these days, truth be told. I wish there were voices that were a little louder than the skeptics. One final thing about my U.S. China passion. It just is so frustrating, as James pointed out, to hear the hysteria as it relates to our relationship with China. And it's as though China is stealing every job. It's like they're stealing all of our technology. It's like all these negative things. We have so much we have benefited so much from our U.S.-China relationship as Americans. Our gross domestic product has grown. Our per capita GDP has grown because of our bilateral trade with China. Our country's better because of the cultural infusion of the Chinese culture. Miss Florence and her family are part of the great American dream, this amazing tapestry of immigrants that have come to our country to make our country better and stronger. And so we've gained so much from our relationship, and to hear nothing but negativity. And no offense, Florence, I know you have friends on both sides of the aisle. We need to do a better job with people on both sides of the aisle to get them to see the reality that China is not an existential threat to our economy, nor to our national security. And we need to lock arms to confront our growing human challenges, whether it's infectious disease and the pandemic spread of a coronavirus, whether it's food shortages in the future or water shortages, whether it's terrorist activity, whatever it is, it's incumbent upon the two strongest economies in the world to work together. And so one of the hopes I have out of this coronavirus crisis is that we, like George Herbert Walker Bush would demand of us, that we bring nations together, bring the experts from the nations of the world together to share what's happening, to share best practices, to develop a game plan, to develop a strategy. We shouldn't build walls and do things alone. We must lock arms and move forward together. So I'm very proud that you mentioned, by the way, we have a presidential legacy. David Firestein, you're going to hear from him, does a great job running our foundation. It's a national organization in the sense that it's the only U.S. China relationship organization that carries a presidential legacy. And there would be no real power to this beyond the presidential legacy if we didn't have a strong foothold on the West Coast, and specifically in this area, because this is the epicenter of U.S.-China kind of interaction, the first, off-ramping, if you will, from China into the United States. And so to have Florence be the vice chairman of our George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations is a great honor. I'm the chairman. She's my real boss behind the scenes. She's a founder of our organization, and she now chairs the George H.W. Bush Coronavirus Action Network, the CAN network. And we're here today to symbolically, and more than symbolically, to actually pack stuff that will be sent to China to help those on the front lines trying to contain this virus. So Florence, I am so proud to be a partner with you in all of this, and I'm so proud to meet your many friends. And by the way, for the elected officials that are here and the aspiring people that are trying to be elected, my father always said that service is a noble calling. And I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, the fact that you're willing to roll up your sleeves and serve our country is great. And thank you, sir, for your service, for your great country as well. So with that, do I turn it over, or James, yes, you take it over? Okay, I'll give it back to James, the master's choice.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. You really got one thing correct. The Chinese women are always in control. So I agree, I agree. The Chinese women are always in control.
I feel like I'm blocking views.
So this next guest probably doesn't need that much of an introduction here among us, but I would only say I'm extraordinarily proud of her. She has dedicated her 60-plus years in the United States, her adopted home, trying to make the relationship between the country of her birth, China, the relationship closer and closer. She's done a fantastic job, whether it's walking with the Speaker of the United States in Chinatown this last Monday, meeting with Mr. Neil Bush today, or being the co-founder of the China Strong, which sent almost 1 million students from the United States to China. She is tireless. A lot of people say that I've known this person all my life. I would only make a slight turn and say, actually, this person gave me life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is really my honor to introduce my idol, and of course, more importantly, my mother, Mrs. Florence Finn.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Neil. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you to accept me with your family and your organizations. And today is a very special day to me. This is the day that I formally joined the forces with George H.W. Bush Foundation for China and U.S. Relations. And I'm deeply honored to be the co-founder, along with Jeb Bush, the real founder for this foundation, and equally honored to be the vice chair for the board of directors, and working together with our foundation's CEO, David Weiston. And these honors have very special significance because of the long friendship I had with the President George H.W. Bush. This way back to 36 years ago. 36 years ago, I owned a restaurant called Grand Palace in the middle of Chinatown, one of the Chinese biggest restaurants. In this restaurant, we host 3 times for President Bush come to Chinatown visit. And the first visit is 1984. That time then is Vice President and Bush. And he is the first Vice President of the United States visiting San Francisco Chinese restaurants and meet with our Chinese community leaders and to showing his care of Chinese American to care of the relations with China. The second time is 1988, and the Vice President coming is campaign for the presidential election campaign. And after he elected for the president, 1992, with Barbara Bush coming together for his presidential re-election campaign. And this is 3 visiting in San Francisco Chinatown. And we've been walking together on the Chinatown street, meet with the regular people. We've been rode on the cable cars, meet with all these medias. Many memories, beautiful memories, which I cherish very much. And President Bush, he is our nation, the most strongest and the most statesman and leadership. I admire him very much. And today, if to be able to play a role to continue his legacy, that is what I want, what I'm willing to do. I just mentioned so many times, I'm born in China, but adopted by United States. I have 2 mothers. I want these 2 mothers really getting along good. That is my wish, my hope, that's what I'm working for. And after the coronavirus break out in Wuhan, and the foundation, U.S. China Foundation, right away, they formed an organization called U.S. China coronavirus. It's so hard for me to put. The coronavirus, you know what? Action Network. So we always call U.S. CAN. I'm honored again to be the chairwoman for this, to coordinate all this effort to fighting with the virus. And this work is very meaningful for me because Wuhan is my hometown. And I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody, not born in Wuhan, not raised up in Wuhan, even not visiting Wuhan, but you give your love and give your sympathy and support Wuhan. Thank you very much. Coronavirus never gave mercy to any races, nationalities, or color skins. So I couldn't agree more than David said. We are on the same boat. And despite of the wind or rain, Chinese say, 风雨同舟. We are on the same boat. And I'm looking forward to working with Neil, David, and all these foundation's members to make better and better the relationship between United States and China. And right now, I want really thanks to my teams. And they are local volunteers. They put very fast, they also and have an organization they call Silicon Valley with Love Support Wuhan. And I'm looking around the room, I can see Deborah, Betty, Yuan Wen, Frank Ouyang, Liu Lei, Corey, and Amy, and so many, everyone. Thank you so much for your voluntarily working day and night for this fighting with the virus. Thank you very much. And I always want to thank everybody coming today from bottom of my heart. Thank you for all your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. One of the other things that I do in my other life in San Francisco is we have a sister city relationship between San Francisco and Shanghai. This year is actually the 40th anniversary of that relationship. And the reason that is significant is, like Neil Bush said, this is an epicenter for interaction between the United States and China. But at the committee, we always had a saying, whoever is assigned from China to be the Consul General of San Francisco has extraordinary talent, because this is such an incredible place. So many different things are happening. Only the best get assigned to San Francisco. We in San Francisco have been very lucky to get the current Consul General, Mr. Wang Donghua, to come and serve here. He had 35 years in the Foreign Service of building relationships between China, other countries, but in particular, the United States. I'm very, very proud and happy, not only that he is here, but that he is my friend. Thank you so much.
James. Distinguished Neil Bush, founder and chairman of the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations, and also, more importantly, longtime friend of China and Chinese people. Distinguished Madam Florence Fang, my dear elder sister, and also co-founder of the foundation and chairman, actually one of the vice chairmen of board directors of the foundation, and also the chair of the U.S. China Can. David, two Davids, friends of mine, Mike, and distinguished friends and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very honored to join all of you in celebrating Madam Florence's new affiliation with the Bush China Foundation in short, and also officially launching the U.S. China coronavirus network. Madam Florence said it's difficult to pronounce coronavirus. And, you know, bad things are always difficult to pronounce. First of all, I would like to, on behalf of the Chinese Consulate General in San Francisco, congratulate you on your new affiliation with the Bush China Foundation. And the foundation, you know, is one of the strongest supporters and the most active advocates for the relationship between China and the United States. And I'm sure your association with the foundation will, you know, provide fresh impetus to the foundation. And we have a lot more to expect from you after you join this foundation. And I would also like to thank you and the foundation for the long-term commitment and the contribution to the friendly relations between our two countries and our two peoples. Actually, I would say that while I served in the Foreign Service, I witnessed the changes in the relations between China and the United States. Actually, the days when we had two Bush presidents, the bilateral relations between our two countries encountered some, challenges. But under the great leadership of the two presidents, we managed the differences and the challenges on the basis of mutual respect and equality. And that ensured, further development of the relations between our two countries, and of course delivered a lot of more benefits to our two peoples. I, came, at a difficult time when the bilateral relations, are confronting new challenges. And I must say that I'm working under enormous amount of pressure. But today, I feel comfortable after hearing the warm comments and good words made by New Bush. And I really feel that we have a lot of friends in the United States. Actually, the event today itself is a testimony to the fact that the bilateral relationship between our two countries enjoy broad-based public support from the people in both countries, and that whenever a need arises, the support for the relationship will present itself in one form or another in a timely manner. That's what I feel very comfortable with. Today, this event has to do with coronavirus. So I wish to beg your indulgence for a few minutes to keep you updated on the battle on the ground against the virus. And since the outbreak of the coronavirus, the Chinese government, under the leadership of the President Xi, has leveraged full strength of the Chinese system and mobilized all the resources at our disposal and taken the most comprehensive and vigorous measures to prevent and control the spread of the virus. As you know, the measures we have taken go well beyond the international health regulations, including some of those you've heard, like lockdown of Wuhan. Those measures are unprecedented in the world. And what we are fighting now is all out of government war, all out of people's war against the virus, thanks to the measures, the stringent measures, I would say, of the government and the painstaking efforts of the Chinese people, especially those medical health workers working on the ground. Progress is being made. The spread of the virus is being curbed, and the number of infections, including confirmed and suspected cases, has been coming down, and the number of cured and discharged from hospital is on the rise. So it is very encouraging. And 4 days, at least more than half of the provinces in China have seen 0 infections. And I think we have great confidence and capability to win the battle early under the leadership of the Communist Party of China. I agree with you. The virus doesn't respect the border, the race or faith. It poses a threat not only to China, but also to the rest of the world. And the only way to triumph over this epidemic is for all the members of the international community to work together in a spirit of solidarity and cooperation. I think China has done its part of efforts and made its share of contribution towards that end. And we have been communicating and cooperating with WHO and other countries, including the United States, in an open, transparent, and responsible manner. And we shared from time to time, but in timely manner, the information related to the coronavirus, including the genetic sequence of the virus. And I think because of the measures taken by China, the epidemic has been prevented from bursting into a pandemic worldwide. Because of the measures taken by China, the number of infections outside of China is very limited. And what we have done in China is not only protecting the safety and health of the Chinese people, but also that of the people around the world. And during the battle, we have, gained or accumulated some experience that for other countries. And what we have done in China also, has earned some precious time for other countries to act quickly in response to the outbreak. So we will continue to do so, continue to work with the rest of the world to contain the spread of the virus. I like the term U.S. China can. It means a lot to China and to the United States. It gives me an expression that if China and the United States work together, they can make anything happen. That's why we have a U.S. China can. And I'm sure by working together, China and the United States can make a real difference and a bigger difference in, fighting against the virus. But it's a little bit regrettable to note that while we are fighting against the virus in China, some very few people in the United States are making, some irresponsible remarks with regard to the effort that China has taken or made, and also, demonize the system of China. And someone even hoped the outbreak of the virus, saying that that would, expedite the return of the U.S. companies that are based in China. That, is a kind of a betrayal of human conscience and morality. It also a betrayal of the kind of support that President Trump promised when he had a telephone conversation with our president, Xi Jinping, some time ago. And also, that is not in conformity with what President Trump said when he visited India, when he asked about the virus. He said, it's not a time for bad words. It's time for support, for cooperation. And I agree with you, my sister, that we are in the same boat. So the only way to defeat the virus is we work together.
We can.
And of course, some people are concerned about the possible impact of the virus on our economies of other countries, I would say it's inevitable that, you know, the virus would have some kind of impacts on our economy. But given the size of our population, given the size of our market, given the, I would say, sound fundamentals of our economy, this kind of impacts are limited and will be short-lived. At the moment, actually, we are coordinating our efforts to control the outbreak of the virus on the one hand, and resume our production work on the other. And we are doing two things at the same time, and I can assure you that we can do them well at the same time. As soon as the outbreak of the virus comes to an end, the economy, the consumption will bounce back. Of course, I think the importance of the cooperation between us on the containment of the virus should be put in the broader perspective of the bilateral relations. We are the top two economies in the world, and the relationship between our two countries is the most important one. And the importance of the relation can never be overemphasized, I would say. Probably that's why we have a lot of supporters for the good development of the relations. The great progress achieved in advancing our relationship over the last 41 years since the inception of diplomatic ties have shown that China and the United States are important partners rather than strategic adversaries. And our cooperation is mutually beneficial instead of a zero-sum game. And you know, I agree with you that both of our countries have benefited enormously from each other's cooperation. And I would say the history of the last 40 years diplomatic relations also reminds us that China and the United States, you know, stand to benefit from each other's cooperation and suffer from confrontation. So today, I think we have a lot of more common interests than differences. Today, we are more intertwined than ever before. And there is a stronger need for cooperation between our two countries. I would say that cooperation really is in the best interest of our two people, and only by working together can we both grow stronger. Again, U.S. China can, by working together, we can make our respective futures much better, and the world a better place to live in. But still, unfortunately, you know, a few people, you know, have done what they can, you know, to, well, decouple the two economies, to obstruct and repress China's development, and also meddle in the internal affairs of China. Well, the facts of the last 2 years have showed us that their approach, like maximum pressure on China, did not work without hurting the interests of the United States. To decouple the two economies would end up with grave consequences, hard to handle, and the high cost, you know, hard to afford. So the practice of the last 2 years also reminds us that cooperation is the best option for our two countries. Probably that's why we have reached and signed the Phase 1 trade agreement. And the signing of the Phase 1 trade agreement itself is a proof that there are better ways than confrontation to address the differences or issues of a common concern. And that as long as we can manage well the each other's core interests and major concerns, and we can come up with solutions to the differences or problems between us. Now, the two countries are working on the implementation of the Phase 1 trade agreement. And I hope we will not be impacted or affected by the containment of the outbreak of the virus. And we would step up our efforts to bring the trade cooperation between our two countries back to normal soon, so that the people of our two countries can benefit more instead of suffer more. The sound development of the relations, as I said, serves the best interests of our two peoples and calls for common efforts on both sides. I hope that the United States would come back to the fact-based and the correct perception of China and rational and a viable policy towards China. China and the United States are the biggest developing country and the developed one, the biggest developed country in the world. I think we must work, and we are ready to work with the United States to find a way of peaceful coexistence with each other as two largest, and find a way of win-win cooperation that not only benefits our people, but also, the rest of the world. So that said, I hope, because everybody has a great, expectations on this foundation headed by you. We hope the foundation will play even a bigger role in promoting the mutual understanding and friendship and the trust between our two peoples and the two countries in years to come. I wish every one of you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Consul General. See, they do send the best to San Francisco. So about 9 months ago, my mother says, you got to go to the airport and pick somebody up. He's going to speak at my conference. So I said, okay. So I picked this guy up, and we talked a little bit. Very impressed. Had been in the Foreign Service for 18 years, published 3 books, speaks 5 different languages, 2 very, very well. English, okay. But we started to talk a little bit about the U.S. China Relations, and I said to him, I feel a little bit isolated here because the national narrative is so negative. And he said, you know what, we need to maybe look at what we call the subnational. We have California and we have Texas. The 5th largest, California, and the 10th largest economy in Texas. We need to set the example now on how we can move forward with this relationship. And when the opportunity comes to make more of an impact on the national level, we will. But let's start working towards a California and Texas partnership. I have to tell you, I was so moved by his thought and his purpose that I really have only known him for about 9 months, but really consider him quite a good friend and a very strong advocate for U.S. China relations. My good friend, Mr. David Firestein. David.
James, thank you so much. Chairman Neil Bush, Vice Chairwoman Florence Fong, Consul General Wang, distinguished mayors and other visitors and friends, what an honor and what a pleasure it is to be with all of you this morning. James, thank you so much for the gracious introduction. Ted, thank you as well for your friendship. It is an incredible moment for the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations, or as you see here, the Qiao Zhi Bush Meizhong Guanxi Jijinhui. I want to say and to echo our chairman's very warm and heartfelt welcome of Florence Fong as co-founder of the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations, as vice chairwoman of the board of directors of our foundation, and as the inaugural chairwoman of a very important body and entity, and that is the Bush China Foundation's U.S. China Coronavirus Action Network, or U.S. China CAN. Florence, welcome. A warm, warm welcome to you. I want to say on a personal note that of all of the titles that Florence has in her leadership capacities in our foundation, the most important title that she has to me is Dear Friend. And thank you, Florence, for your incredible friendship. If I may just share with this group that when Florence and I met almost exactly 3 years ago for the first time, I had a very strong feeling that can only be best described in the Chinese language, and that is 一见如故. When I met Florence, I felt as if I had known her for many, many years, and I am extremely blessed and fortunate to be able to have the privilege of calling Florence a dear friend, as well as now one of my bosses as well. I want to thank all of the volunteers, all of you who care about the U.S.-China relationship and who give not only of your time and your effort, but also of your heart and your soul, and who give your love to Wuhan, to China, and to the cause of improving U.S.-China relations. Thank you for what you do, and we at the Bush China Foundation are very privileged and honored to work in common cause with all of you toward these very important goals. Let me just say a little bit, very briefly, about the Bush China Foundation. And that is that our mission is very simple. It is to advance U.S.-China relations in ways that reflect the ethos, spirit, and values of President George H.W. Bush. And we wake up in the morning asking ourselves this question: what can we do today to build a stronger relationship between our two great nations? We are really honored to be able to work with people all across the country, and both here in the United States and in China, toward that end. I have to say, it just occurred to me while I was listening to some of the earlier comments, including from Consul General Wang, who correctly noted that this year, the year 2020, is the 41st anniversary of the normalization of U.S.-China relations. And it made me realize that having Florence Fong join formally our foundation and join forces with our foundation at this time, in this year, is particularly auspicious. And that is because George H.W. Bush was the 41st President of the United States of America. And so I want to note that in the anniversary year, 41st year of U.S.-China relations normalization, we are honored to have Florence join our leadership team carrying forward the legacy of the 41st President of the United States. And this is going to be a great year for our collaboration under our chairman's leadership, under our vice chairwoman's leadership, and working with all of our good friends in China and here. And I wanted to note that. I want to say a little bit about U.S. China CAN, which has been referenced this morning, the U.S. China Coronavirus Action Network, or U.S. China CAN. I think you understand the essence of it. What we seek to do is to make a positive difference every day in helping our good friends in China deal with and cope with and ultimately prevail in the cause of dealing with the coronavirus challenge. The U.S. China Coronavirus Action Network, or U.S. China CAN, is all about matching questions to answers, matching needs to capacity and to resources, and increasing the overall level of coordination in the efforts occurring all across this country, and increasing the overall level of efficiency of the American civil society effort to help our good friends in China cope with this increasingly global challenge. As many of you know, often when I speak, I do use some Chinese to communicate some of my thoughts. My friend and mentor, and now my boss, Florence, has often suggested that I use some Chinese. Let me just say one thing in Chinese that I think is a good summary of what U.S. China CAN is all about. If someone said, David, how would you summarize this body of work in a very short and succinct couple of phrases in Chinese, I would say that these are the phrases I would use. 以老不时精神，还有风雨同舟精神，来克服病毒。And what that means is, for those who may not have gotten every word, what that means is let us use the George H.W. Bush spirit and the we are all in this boat together spirit to fight and defeat this virus. Now let me just add one more thing to that. As I spoke this morning, I mentioned the importance of the number 41. So let me add one sentence. 我来补一句，就是以41精神来克服病毒。We're going to use the spirit of 41 to win in this battle against coronavirus. Now, I want to just emphasize one last point before I read an important document. And I think Neil said this really well in his comments this morning. The George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations is a national organization with a national mandate to improve U.S. China relations. We operate all across the country, and we operate in China. And we are so blessed, just as Neil said, to have one of our top leaders and visionaries, Florence Fong, right here in the Bay Area, the heart and the beating heart of the U.S.-China relations, U.S.-China relationship. And we're very privileged to be able now to have a very high-impact presence with one of our top leaders and visionaries right here in the Bay Area. And as has been noted, we really look forward to deepening collaboration with the Bay Area and with California as we embark and deepen our work to build a U.S.-China relationship for the ages. Let me now just say that one of the things that we have done, our chairman, our vice chairwoman, and myself as president and CEO, is that we have signed a letter that is essentially an open call to action regarding the U.S.-China Coronavirus Action Network, or U.S. China CAN. And let me just read that to you, and I'll show it to you here in just a moment. But I'd like to read this so that you understand what we're trying to do, and then I will conclude. So this is our call to action. First reported in Wuhan, China on December 31st, 2019, the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19, has spread rapidly across more than 24 countries, with total fatalities already surpassing both SARS from 2003 and MERS from 2012, the novel coronavirus is quickly becoming one of the greatest global public health challenges of our time. Though China has been hardest hit, economic and social ripple effects are already being felt worldwide. With the global community more connected than ever before, the spread of the coronavirus jeopardizes the health and well-being and economies of all nations. There is a Chinese saying, and Florence noted it earlier, and I've referenced it, 风雨同舟, meaning wind and rain, we are all in the same boat. And there's a Western saying, united we stand, divided we fall. The novel coronavirus respects no national boundaries, political affiliations, ethnicities, or socioeconomic status. We are all in the same boat. But the very interconnectedness of the people, resources, and economies that makes the coronavirus such a threat is also precisely our greatest weapon against the outbreak. We at the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S. China Relations pledge to do everything we can to combat the spread of coronavirus. We call on private sector companies, nonprofit organizations, as well as private individuals in the United States and China and across the globe to join forces to launch with us formally the United States-China Coronavirus Action Network. The U.S. China Coronavirus Action Network will activate all scientific, academic, industrial, nonprofit, and governmental resources available in a coordinated effort to address the key challenges of containing the virus. By combining the capacities and the efforts of each and every one of our networks and pooling collective resources together to take decisive actions in this fight, we stand the best chance of eliminating the threat of the virus as soon as possible. Let me show you this letter just so you can see it. This letter is signed by Neil Bush, founder and chairman of our foundation, by Florence Fong, co-founder and vice chairwoman of our board of directors, and also the chairwoman of the U.S. China CAN effort, and myself, president and CEO of our foundation. In conclusion, let me just say that another way of describing the work that we do in terms that I think would be very meaningful and resonant to Florence is that this foundation is all about building bridges of understanding, of trust, and of friendship between Florence's birth mother and her beloved adopted mother, China and the United States, respectively. To end on an even more emphatic note, we've talked a lot this morning about U.S. China CAN. Let me just say to you that together, U.S. China will, and we will get this done together and help our friends in China and all across the world to fight and defeat the coronavirus. And with that, Florence, allow me to just say once more, thank you so much for your vision, for your leadership, for your love, for your passion about this relationship. We are immensely fortunate and blessed to have you as one of our visionaries and leaders. We will work tirelessly to make you proud, and I know you will work us tirelessly to do great things for this relationship. But again, Neil, thank you. Florence, thank you. Consul General Wang, thank you so much, sir. And all of you, thank you again for what you do every day for the cause of the most to advance relations between the United States and China, the most consequential bilateral relationship in the history of the world. Thank you all very much.
I just forgot, one of the reasons I hate David is his Chinese. We're both born in the U.S. His Chinese is a little bit better than mine. And he doesn't have a Shanghainese accent when he talks, so a little more Beijing accent than Shanghai accent. So I would like to just say that while the coronavirus is extraordinarily important and it is a critical focal point for what we are going to do today. It is just one piece, one start for the relationship for the George Bush China Foundation. It is the important first step, but nevertheless, just the first step to show people, the nation and the world, what people can do together. But having said that, there's been a lot of work done already to get these supplies you see around us. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Betty Yuan from the Silicon Valley, I don't want to say Sweetheart Volunteers for Wuhan, but I'll say Sweetheart Volunteers for Wuhan, here to say a few words and to acknowledge some of the organizations that help put these supplies together. Betty?
Thank you, James. Honorable Neil Bush, Honorable Ms. Fang, Mrs. Fan, and the Honorable Consul General Wang Donghua, and David, and the official people, and all the donors, and all the volunteers, and good morning.
Good morning.
Or I say good afternoon. Okay. This is my honor to be here to represent three of organizations. We start to work on the January 25th. We form Silicon Valley in loving and helping Wuhan for coronavirus disease. And I would like to introduce our three of organizations. The first one is Hanling Educational Foundation. I would like to invite all the volunteers come on the stage. Please come. The second one is Bridge Road International. Please come over. And the third one is Hunan Association U.S. Please, Frank, Ouyang, and Yuan Wen, and Deborah, and all the volunteers. Please come over. All the volunteers and the donors. Zhang Lan, please come on the stage. I would like to invite them, each of them say a few words.
There we go.
But before they say a few words, I would like to make very short statements. What do we do? Start on the January 25th, we start to form this platform, and we already ship 16 times medical supply goods to China, which include Wuhan, Hunan, Zhejiang, and Anhui. Until today, we already have 273 donors, and we have 18 persons donate the medical supply goods to us. So we count total, we have 291 persons to support our platform. The third is total, we raise 192,000, and we have goods, the value is 22,000. Total will be the $215,000 until today. And I really would like to appreciate all our volunteers. They are working in the daytime. They work in the nighttime. We start the fundraising. We start to buy the goods. We start to communicate with the logistics and all the customers and the airplanes. I saw a few airplanes owner, they are here. We really appreciate everybody's support. I would like to say, it is our honor to be selected from Mrs. Fan and the U.S. China Can, this organization. We're the first be elected for join this platform, U.S. China Can. I really believe we can put our efforts to help the U.S. China Can and the other nonprofit organizations with our local officials to work together to reach our common goal. Our common goal is to look like David said, it's very simple. Help China-U.S. friendship forever together. So I would like to quote somebody's words, and I really love it. We're coming together is beginning. We're keeping together is progress. And we're working together is success. God bless China. God bless U.S. And now I would like to pass this microphone to Hanley Educational Foundation. Where's Vicky? Could you say a few words? Yeah, come on. Say a few words. 1 minute.
1 minute is too long. I just want to say thank you for all the donors and all the volunteers, and actually just like Jim says, we're together and we can help everybody. If one individually, maybe I can help somebody, maybe just work with a few people, but because we're all together, so we can do more and help more people.
Thank you so much. And she's working with Stanford Library. Yeah. Okay. And Yuan Wen, where's Yuan Wen? Actually, in our organization, in our group, the most important person is Deborah. So the Mrs. Fan first mentioned about Deborah's name. So Deborah, say a few words. Okay, just say a few words.
Maybe we can say together, say U.S. China can. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
U.S. China can!
We can!
He represents Bridge International, and he can represent the Sierra USA organization. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's so. I'm really glad to be here and be part of the supporting effort to China, the coronavirus threat. So actually, I lived in Wuhan for 3 years. So it's really. We have big concerns at the virus outbreak, and we hope what we have done can help a little bit. And with all these volunteers and the lead of U.S. China Can, I think we can do much better. Thank you.
Now is Frank Oya. Frank, where are you?
Nina.
Frank?
You're volunteer.
Frank.
Nina. You want me to say something?
Nina, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I want to just say thank you to a few group of people here, maybe not here only some. Donators, we got about almost 300 people, and organizations. A lot of people did not give names. Okay, that we would truly appreciate. Number 2, the group of here, not all included. A lot of. I would say the volunteers. So there was one touching story with the number 1, the first group of Chicago's going to China. We're told cannot go. There are people crying right away. So it's just I had a photo picture I can share with you later. They worked days and nights, sleepless. Why she was crying? Because she worked till 5 a.m. in the morning. We need to get the first batch of cargo going to the infected areas. That's one. Number 3, and I would say thanks to the Consul General in San Francisco of China. I mean, they put a lot of effort to coordinate those transportations, the efforts. It's the most important thing, the most difficult thing is to move the parts, move the medical supplies to the areas they need it. And that's really hard. So, and the General Counsel, Mr. Wang, and Vice General Counsel, Ms. Zhou, she's here somewhere, she's hiding somewhere. So yeah, a lot of work. I mean, really, number 4, really want to thank, I don't know if they're representatives here or not, the Hainan Airlines and others. They put a tremendous work. I cannot say much because Southern China and Haihang, yes, Nanfang, right? Nanhang is the one really got most of the things, the cargo.
James Chen is here. James Chen, where are you? Come over.
James
Chen, we really appreciate your help.
Yeah. So they are the one really so far helped move more than almost 20 times.
And for our organization,
For
I
the
say,
whole organization,
I say
so
maybe 14 times.
14 times.
To ship the supplies to China.
Most of the ones going to Wuhan, some Hunan, Beijing, Anhui, and other areas were transported by them. I want to just say thanks to all those 4 groups, and maybe not all included, other people. But thanks again, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Council General.
Sorry, can I jump the red lines?
Sure. Join us.
Before I forget, I would take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you and all of those who, have provided generous donations and support. Because your support is actually not only helping the Chinese people, but also helping the people of other countries. Thank you very much for that. And also, I would like to thank the U.S. China Can for the great role it plays in leveraging the collective resources and actions in a coordinated way for the battle against the outbreak of the virus. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I would like to remind all of us, this is our honor to be selected from the U.S. China Can group organization. So we will do harder to help this disease. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So one of the difficulties in preparing resources like this is you cannot get the supply. You just cannot get the supply. So we were very lucky. A good friend of my mother's donated 100 the hazmat suits, which is critical. Everyone talks about the masks, but it can't be sped through the body. I'd like to introduce Mr. Childs, who donated 100, Ron Childs, who donated 100 suits. You can give it to Betty. Thank you. And at this point, I would like the Mr. Bush, David, my mom, Consul General Wong, Debbie, and then I would like the mayors. Mayor Noel Arnich, thank you, of Danville. Mayor Wayne Lee, David from Dublin. Michael Brownrigg. Is Susan Schneider here, the Vice Mayor of Millbrae? Okay, now, Paul, if you could join us.
And then Deborah.
Yeah, yes, I mentioned Deborah already. And Franco, yeah. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take stickers and actually put them on the box where the China-U.S. Can, U.S. China Can Foundation will now officially accept this wonderful donation from your organization. Thank you so much. Let's get the stickers so we can start putting them on.
You two. No, you two put in one box. Okay. All right. Okay. Hold on. All right. In three. Come on. All right. In 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, turn around for camera. For photo. All right, the second group. All right, that box. Yes, all right, in 3. Hold on. 3, 2, 1, go.
Jets. So this might be the
Okay, James. All right, the third party. Hold on. Let me in 3. All right, I'm gonna give you a cue. 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.